we're going to be talking first about Luck, which just dropped on Apple TV Plus this past weekend. And Dave, I mean, we've talked about a few animated movies on here before. Would you say that this was something Apple kind of needed? Because I don't know if they've had like the super successful animated movie, have they?
Well, they acquired Wolfwalkers, if you
That's
remember,
right.
which was Oscar nominated. But Luck is the first film as part of a new strategy from Apple, which would be this partnership they have with Skydance Animation. This is the first film from Skydance Animation, and they have another one coming later in the year. And they have, Skydance, the Ellisons, they got a lot of money, and they're really trying to blow out uh, Skydance Animation. They got Brad Bird actually signed on to make his next movie. Of course, the director of The Incredibles, among other things. The Zootopia director has joined up now, bringing in a lot of talent. And I think that was made clear a few years ago when David Ellison hired John Lasseter to run Skydance Animation. This is the first release uh, after that, of course. John Lasseter, the founder, former creative force at Pixar until he left during the height of Me Too. And this is his kind of return to professional life. So, yeah, I think Apple, we don't know exactly the terms of this deal, but they seem to have a long deal established with Skydance Animation. So it's kind of the first foray from both parties, Apple and Skydance, regarding animation. So um, I, I'm actually just more interested in seeing how that plays out more than you know being super interested in the movie Luck itself. But it's definitely an industry story to watch. But I mean, what did you think? Were you uh, anticipating this streaming release from Apple? We've had Lightyear was a bit middling, but Turning Red was on streaming earlier in the year, and that was a banger. So I think, and Minions has been a big hit in theaters. So I wonder how many kids are really gonna get this show in front of them. Apple, not the most subscribed to service after all.
Yeah. Was I anticipating this? I don't wouldn't say I was anticipating it, but I feel like I had seen maybe a trailer or two, and I definitely was intrigued by it. I was really just struck in going back to Skydance and just their overall style, just like how familiar the movie felt. And I think that's because they were definitely pulling styles from a lot of well-known movies animated in this style. I mean, if you look at some of the characters and you look at some of the ways that they made things look, it's kind of hard when you see the pigs to not think of like Sing or Sing 2. When you see the big
Mm,
dragon, how do you not think back to Shrek and the big pink dragon from Shrek? So it feels like
interesting.
in a sense there was like this desire with this film, which I actually think is a really enjoyable little flick. But it seems like they were probably strategically thinking we want to make this feel a little bit more lived in and familiar than something completely new. And which I don't know if that's like the worst move ever. It's just definitely a choice. Even people that were kind of in my house, kind of coming in and out watching the film, were like, "Oh, is this like something I've seen before, or what is this?" And they were
Mm.
kind of noting that the characters felt like they'd seen them in something else.
Yeah, well, Lasseter has a long history. So not that he was animating this himself, of course, but he
Mhm.
gave a lot of notes. And it's actually funny because Luck was already underway when Lasseter was hired, and then he kind of jumped on board. So it took a little while for them to get to this, but at least people weren't super overworked animating this. I think they took their time releasing Luck, which is good to hear, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, did what? So you thought it was enjoyable? I thought it had a really intriguing setup, and then once we got to the Land of Luck itself, I really started to get lost in the kind of never ending like exposition and list of MacGuffins regarding the Land of Luck. I just thought it got a bit too convoluted. It was just kind of unnecessary. Not that I wasn't following it, but I was like,
Mhm.
You're getting a little overcomplicated. I think. For young kids, they'll probably just appreciate the zaniness of all that. But
Right.
But for me, I thought it just kind of frantically brought us around, and the cat is just constantly explaining something new to us about the land of luck, and there's like no time for the characters to actually be the characters, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. It definitely is convoluted. There's a ton of MacGuffins in it, like you said. And I also think Luck is trying to thread the needle in a couple of different ways. Obviously, it's a kids' movie, animated in that sense, kind of would insinuate that usually. But i the main character, Sam, is a young adult who's transitioning from being a child into an adult, and you're kind of with her as she's struggling to like get her feet on the ground and feel
Hmm.
settled.
Yeah.
Um, and so while I think like there's some themes for kids, I think it definitely is trying to do the Pixar like a dual movie type of thing. And I think that's where the like convolutedness really starts to seep out. Because I think as a kid watching this, you kind of see the cat explaining stuff and you're like, wow, look how cute that cat is. And look how like funny it is to see him like driving the car, or, like see them like pulling off these hijinks. But when you're like, okay, so how long has the little girl at the home been waiting for this visit to happen? And how many times can we have something else go wrong with good luck and bad luck and they this kid's still waiting? It's like I don't know. Something feels like a little off there.
Hmm.
Um but I think it was just fun to like be exploring this idea, which I think is like I
Mm.
think is pretty smart. Like I agree. I think the setup to the movie is really great. And I have to say, the ending when they're kind of deciding like or especially when Bob the cat is deciding where he wants to live, it got me, man. Heartfelt, got a little dusty in the old Sheen household over here cuz
Nice.
it hit me right in the heartstrings, and I would say it was pretty successful to me in that case. And also I can just see the toys, right? Can't you see the Bob the cat toy being sold at Christmas?
Well,
Can't you see
well,
that?
I was reading about Skydance staffing up a merchandising department for all intents and purposes. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked about that.
Jerry the
Um,
leprechaun, that cute looking little guy. Come on.
sure. Go come get your luck pennies and your crystals and your
Exactly.
all the other stuff that's there.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's okay. I'm definitely looking forward to their next movie. I think it's called Spellbound, I believe it is, and of course the Brad Bird movie will be must watch once that comes out as well for obvious reasons. But yeah, I mean, I'll also be interested to see how Hollywood continues to receive Lasseter because that was a very controversial hire at the time. I don't know if it's quite as hot now. He's someone who committed misconduct, but also didn't actually do anything like super criminal, never paid anyone off. There's levels to it. Evaluate it. Make your own opinion, of course. But you know, Larry Ellison's wealthy and David Ellison are wealthy enough that they don't really give a fuck, right? They're like, here's our opportunity to make our animation division. We got lucky that this talented guy was available to be hired, and that's what they did. So probably got to see a few more to see how successful Skydance Animation will be, but I think this was a solid first step.
Apple TV Plus has been around for what, like 3 years now? Would you
Yeah, I
say?
want it end of 2019, I think it was, came out, something like that. Yeah, the
How would you
fall, right?
how would you grade them so far in terms of just kind of getting the platform up and running?
Well, I think Apple is really should only be judged against Amazon because they have no like restrictions. It's all about how much money they want to spend, but they have the money. You know,
Right.
um, Apple can use it as a loss leader. They don't really give a shit. So, lest we forget, they did win Best Picture with Coda just this year. So, I think
Hmm.
Apple TV Plus has been very, I think, inconsistent in breaking through culturally. Ted Lasso was a huge hit. Pachinko wasn't a huge hit, but was critically well received. For All Mankind seems to have really grown, so they're getting there. I think movie wise though, it's definitely been very up and down. Apart from Coda, so definitely curious to see if this can break through, given that this is targeted for kids, and I think parents don't think of Apple TV Plus for their kids programming. We know that.
Yeah, I would say that Apple has done I agree. I think it's hard to like judge them against something like Netflix, but I think Apple has done a really good job actually of like setting themselves up to build a library that
Hmm.
is fairly deep, and varied. And I like that they're building out this aspect of their library now as well. We're going to be talking about For All Mankind next week, which I've been really enjoying so far this season. So I would say that they're doing a pretty good job. It's hard for these new streaming platforms to really like get in and really be competitive. And Apple, like you said, has the resource to do it, but I think has also been making things that are worthy of being talked about and lauded. So definitely would give them a good grade. But I think Luck's a fine addition to that catalog. Probably not one we're gonna be talking about end of year, but still worthy.